My online monthly fiction book clubs for kids are finished this year, and I thought I would share what they voted as their top 4 favorite books this year. I teach monthly fiction book clubs on Outschool for both 8 to 10-year-olds and 11 to 13-year-olds during the school year. First, I just want to quickly run through the books that the 8 to 10-year-olds read this year in case you're not familiar with the list. All right, in September, we read The Mouse and the Motorcycle. In October, we read Mr. Lemoncello's Very First Game, which is a prequel to the Mr. Lemoncello series. In November, we read The Girl Who Stole an Elephant. In December, we read A Rover's Story. In January, we did something a little different, and we read a graphic novel, a memoir, El Defo. In February, we read The Very, Very Far North. In March, we read Birch Bark House. And in April, we read The Silver Arrow. And we ended the year in May with the beloved favorite, Harry Potter. All right, because this was only 9 books during the year, I thought I would share just their top 4 favorites. At the end of the year, I had everyone share their favorite book and their least favorite book, and I kept track of those books, kind of tallying them up, and I thought I would share out of the 9 which were their 4 favorites. Now, I will go ahead and also share which was their least favorite of the year. In general, for the 8 to 10-year-old group, their least favorite was The Birch Bark House. Some of them said they liked the book, but looking over the list, it was the least favorite. This book has some sadness. A beloved character dies in the book, and that was really hard for a lot of them. So unfortunately, this one gets the honor of being the least favorite. Okay, but let's talk about the good news. What are the books they really enjoyed? So we're going to start at number 4. At number 4 was Mr. Lemoncello's Very First Game. This was such a fun prequel, a great way to spend October with puzzles and fun, kind of puzzle solving book. This was a really fun one. All right, then in third place for the 8 to 10-year-olds was The Very, Very Far North. This is such a delightful book. It is a gentle book. There's not a lot of high conflict or suspense or anything like that, but it is such a sweet book with such fun, unique, and original characters, and there's some adventures in there, and in general, the group really loved this one, and there is a sequel if you decide to read this one with your kids. Okay, and number 2, their second favorite as a group, was The Silver Arrow. This was such a fun find for me because I never read it with my own kids. A lot of times I'm pulling books for book clubs that I'm familiar with and remember really loving, unless they're new and have been published since my kids have grown. But this one was a new one for me, and I really loved it. We used it to discuss theme because there are some very clear themes in this book, but it was such a fun, magical adventure. All right, and the number 1 favorite of the year was the beloved Harry Potter by an overwhelming number of votes. So that was really fun to see because this is also one of my favorites. All right, let's talk about the 11 to 13-year-old book list and the winners for that age group. All right, once again, let me just run through the 9 books I read with the middle school Outschool monthly fiction book club. In September, we read Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus. Highly recommend. But I could say that for all of these books, so I won't keep saying it. Framed is a fun mystery, and it is the first book in a series. Sweep, a historical fiction and fantasy. A Rover Story, nice little science fiction there. We read a nonfiction book, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. This is the young reader's version. We read Grounded in February. Then we read A Night Divided for a suspenseful historical fiction in March. In April, we read Manatee Summer, and we finished the year in May with Harry Potter. Yes, the middle schoolers still love Harry Potter. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. What's interesting about the middle schoolers is their votes were much more widespread. So in general, all of the books you just saw got at least, for favorites, at least 2 votes. Boy Who Harnessed the Wind only got 2, but the majority of them got 5 or more votes. So they were a little more spread out, which means for the least favorite, there are 2 tied for least favorite, and they actually surprised me. Their least favorites were Grounded and Sweep. A few people shared that this one just wasn't interesting to them. There wasn't enough conflict, things going on. It kind of was slow for them. This one, a beloved character does die. So I don't know if that affected some of the votes. It could be. And some just said they weren't really into the way this fantasy happened. And then, of course, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. There's the death of a dog in there. So that one also got a few votes, not as many as Sweep and as Grounded for least favorites. Though once again, many kids said, well, I liked them all, but if I had to choose, this is the one that would have been my least favorite. All right, but let's go through their absolute favorites for the year. At number 4, we have the science fiction A Rover Story. This one is really interesting. And what the middle schoolers really noticed about this is kids who did not gravitate to science fiction really liked this one because it was really relational in addition to being science fiction. And I think that drew more kids in than just a science fiction book. Coming in third, a book that was beloved this year was Manatee Summer. And it's funny because my cousin who watches some of my social media videos, she read it. She's an adult with 3 kids and she was like, oh my gosh, I love that book. This is such a great one. Friendship, family, manatees. What more could you want? All right, coming in second was our mystery book of the year, Framed. And this is such a fun one with art and a middle schooler who's kind of recruited by the FBI. So it's just lots of fun the way the story is framed, but then framed being the artwork. And this is the first in a series of 3. So it's kind of a fun one to get your kids started. I like sometimes to pick series for book club because it kind of gets the kids started on a reading journey through a few more books if they liked it. All right, and finally, the number 1, once again, by a long shot. This is the one book that it's very clear, Harry Potter. Once again, a favorite, even in the middle school. So that was really fun to see because I wondered how they feel about doing Harry Potter in the 11 to 13-year-old, and they absolutely loved it. All right, so that was our year, this past school year. I have started selecting books for the coming school year, and I will definitely announce them soon. You can learn more about my Outschool book clubs in the links below. And be sure to check out the video where I'm going to share the favorites for the graphic novel book club as well.